hasn't even been a year since I made a video where I fed my family for an entire day with just a little over $10. That comes out to about $3.50 per meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And when I was in the grocery store recently, I was kind of curious what it would cost for me to make that video today, only about 10 months later. And when I went around and looked at the current prices of the ingredients that I used in that meal plan, instead of it costing $10.45, it costs me now today $14.75. So that's an increase of about 40%. And while the biggest price increases were on the dairy and the eggs, which have basically doubled since then, there were increases of at least 10% or more on the other items that I used to create that day of meals. And while I do think, and I have said this in other videos, that we are all going to have to consider how we are going to increase our grocery budgets and probably our revenue, our household income altogether, I was wondering if it was even still possible for me to do this challenge, to feed my family breakfast, lunch, and dinner for about $10. This isn't meant to be a sustainable way of eating and living forever. Per the usual with these budget challenge videos, I'm just trying to give some ideas that might help somebody who finds themselves in a temporary tight spot. This is what I came up with. If you want to make some substitutions, if you want to make some adjustments, if this just gives you a jumping off point, an idea to get started on maybe an inexpensive meal for your family, then that's fantastic. This is what I ended up with from Walmart with the budget I was working with. I got 1 pound of pork sausage. This farmland sausage is $2.88 at my Walmart, and I like to use sausage when I'm working with a tight budget because not only does it add a little bit of protein to my dishes, but it adds a lot of flavor because it has fat and seasoning in it. And speaking of seasoning, I also like to pick up the tomatoes that have something else added into them whenever I'm working, with limited ingredients or seasonings. And these diced tomatoes also have onion, celery, and green pepper. I picked up a pound of pasta. I got the small shells because for what I'm doing, I thought those would work the best, but another small or shortcut pasta would be just fine, like an elbow macaroni or even like a rotini or a penne if you're in a pinch. 1 can of tomato paste, 1 can of mixed vegetables, and there are 2 different kinds of canned mixed vegetables in my Walmart. I usually look for the ones that have celery and potatoes and lima beans in addition to like the green beans and carrots and corn. 1 can of white kidney beans, also known as cannellini beans. I was delighted to see that the jumbo biscuits, the 8-count jumbo biscuits in the Great Value brand are $1.48. I'm going to do something fun with those. And I still was able to work a fruit and a vegetable into our day. I have 1 bag of broccoli florets. I thought about getting a few apples with the few cents that I had left in my budget, but I was only going to be able to get probably 1 apple at the price per pound. So there's a reason why bananas show up in a lot of budget challenges, and that is because they are inexpensive and they are readily available, at least in a lot of places, most if not all of the year. So I picked up 5 bananas as well. Here is my receipt from Walmart, and you can see the things that I purchased there and the prices, and also that my subtotal before tax was $10.12. My state does have tax on food, but most states do not tax food. Most states that do tax food actually don't tax it at the full percentage. Unfortunately, in Oklahoma, we do tax food at the full percentage. So whenever I am shooting for a particular budget, I'm usually shooting for a pre-tax budget. So I hit $10.12 before tax and then close to $11 after tax, and you can see the prices of the items right there. So I got the biscuits and the bananas to have for breakfast, and I could just make the biscuits according to the package directions in the oven and have a banana and let that be the end of it. But today I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic, so I'm actually going to use the biscuits to make donut holes. This is something I learned to do in the 7th grade when my friends and I would have sleepovers at each other's houses, and we would make donut holes from biscuit dough the next morning. So let me show you how I do that. I cut my biscuits up into about 6 pieces per biscuit, and now I am just putting those into a deep pot that I have put about a cup or so of vegetable oil in. I don't worry about them being completely submerged because it only takes about 30 seconds, and then I can flip them over to the other side, and then they're done. It only takes about 60 seconds total for these to cook in the oil. And then I immediately remove them from the pan with a slotted silicone spoon, and I toss them with some cinnamon sugar and lay them out on a paper towel to dry. And that's it. I can do a lot of them depending on the size of the pan. You want to make sure that you're being very careful whenever you are frying anything because oil burns, not fun. Use a deep pan, do a little research if you've never done it before, maybe watch some other tutorials on it. But this is what I decided to do today for kind of a treat breakfast for the family. These are just as good as I remember. Only thing is, you really have to eat them while they're warm. Like, you have to eat them within a few minutes of making them, because I personally don't think they keep very well for very long. So make sure you've got the family gathered for breakfast so that you're ready to eat them if you go this route with breakfast. I have lots and lots of budget meal videos that I have made over the years. So if you are looking for something a little bit different, there is a playlist in the description box. I try to put most of my budget content, my budget meal content, in that playlist. I have videos where I'm shopping at different stores, videos that are for one day, videos that are for an entire week, videos that are for one person, videos that are for an entire family. I even have one where I basically utilize the microwave for all of the meals. So again, if this isn't what you're looking for, or if you just want to watch more, you can check out that playlist in the description box below. I have a big pot of salted water coming to a boil on the burner next to me. And once that comes to a boil, I'm going to dump in 12 ounces of my small pasta shells that I purchased. That is about 3/4 of my box, or about 3 cups, or if you have a scale, you can weigh it out. It doesn't have to be exact for this particular recipe. I'm gonna let the pasta cook on its own for about 5 or 6 minutes, and then I'm going to toss in my bag of broccoli florets for the last few minutes that it's cooking. While that is going on, I have half of my 1-pound package of sausage here on the stove, which I am browning up. And once it is done browning and the pasta is done, I'm actually gonna use about half a cup, maybe to 3/4 of a cup of the pasta water, the starchy pasta water that the pasta and the broccoli cooked in, and put that into my pan here before I drain the pasta and the broccoli. You can add some extra seasonings at this point if you wanted to add a little Italian seasoning, or if you wanted to add a little bit of red pepper flake, or whatever seasonings you have on hand according to your taste. You can add some extra salt and pepper if you want. The sausage is already seasoned, so if you want to keep it, really simple, you don't have to add any extra seasonings at all. Then I will just stir in my cooked pasta and broccoli, and it will be basically ready to serve up right away. If you have a little Parmesan cheese, or some of those little packets of Parmesan like that come from restaurants or pizza places, this would be a great use for those. When I am doing these kinds of videos, I am often trying to think outside the box a little bit, do something creative, unique, maybe something outside of your standard budget meal. And I'm also usually trying to include a fruit and a vegetable if I can. I'm trying to think about flavor, ways that we can enhance the flavor without adding too much to the cost. And I also try to think about not just filling the belly, but the overall nutrition of the meal if I can. And this particular meal, when I make it serve 5, and when I did the math, it came out to around 500 calories per serving, including almost 18 grams of protein, without adding anything else to it than what I used here in this video. I think that that's pretty good, especially considering there's no dairy and there's only, half a pound of sausage in it, but protein comes from other sources as well. There's 7 grams of protein per serving of pasta, and I used 6 servings of pasta in this meal, and there's even protein in the broccoli. And had I opted for the peas instead of for the broccoli, it would have been even more protein, but not everybody in my family likes peas, so I had to go with the broccoli. I am sometimes asked why I make this kind of content if I don't have to stick to this kind of budget. And I have in the past needed meals like this. I have in the past had a much tighter grocery budget than what I have today. And this is just meant to give some inspiration, to give some ideas, to give some encouragement to somebody out there who might find themselves in this position as well. My husband and I tithe from the income that comes in from this channel to charities that address housing and food insecurity. And if you are able to do the same, I highly encourage you to do that. And if you are somebody who needs these ideas, I hope that there is something helpful for you here. And if you are struggling with housing or food insecurity, please, please, please reach out to local resources like food banks, schools, churches, charities that do food pantries, or maybe utilize something like 211.org that may be able to help connect you with some of those resources in your area. I just finished browning up the other half of my 1-pound package of sausage, so it's nice and browned. It's all cooked up inside of my big pot here. And now I'm gonna add my canned ingredients. I have some cannellini beans, so I'm gonna add that can, plus 1 can of water, my diced tomatoes, and this is the kind that has onion, celery, and green pepper as well, plus 1 can of water, my can of mixed vegetables. And if you wanted to get a package of frozen vegetables instead, it's not that much more to get the package of frozen vegetables, and it would give you some more veggies. There would be more in that frozen package than in this can, but I went for the can this time. And you guessed it, 1 can worth of water. By the way, these are 14.5-ounce cans, so it's just a little bit less than 2 cups that I'm putting in each time I pour in a can of water. And my can of tomato paste, plus not 1, but 2 cans worth of water. This is a 6-ounce can. 6 ounces is 3/4 of a cup, so that's an additional 1.5 cups. You could also use broth instead of water, or if you have broth base or bouillon, you could throw that in as well. Or you can just use water and add a little salt and pepper. I'm just gonna add some pepper since I added the bouillon cube. You could also throw in a little Italian seasoning, a little red pepper flake if you want a kick. It's up to you. You can season it how you like. I'm going to give this a stir, and I want to bring it up to a boil, and then I'm going to add the rest of my box of pasta. That's 4 ounces or about 1 cup of pasta, and I'm gonna cook it right in the soup. But I want this to come up to a boil and probably simmer for a couple of minutes before I add the pasta, just to let the flavors all kind of mingle together. Once I add the pasta, it will take about 10 to 12 minutes, maybe about 9 to 10 minutes for the pasta to cook, depending on the size of pasta that you're using. And then I will have a really delicious soup that I can serve up. It's more of a broth-based soup, so it's gonna be really filling. If you have some bread or some toast to serve alongside this, it could really bulk up the meal. But it is winter here at the time that I'm filming this, and it's really chilly outside, so something like this, besides being very cost efficient, is also just very cozy. You know, it's very comforting this time of year to have a big old bowl of soup. Thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in more budget cooking content, be sure to check out that playlist down below, or maybe this video or this video, and I'll see you there.